Quinn, and I'll be talking about global warming. What makes humans different from other animals? Personally, I see no difference between some people and monkeys at the San Diego Zoo. How is it that humans can identify as anything other than a hairless ape? When comparing their DNA, one finds that humans and chimps' DNA is 98% identical. Humans and chimps share the same kingdom, phylum, class, order, and family, using the taxonomic classification of animals. What is it that separates humanity from any other species? Is it that we communicate? Is it that we can manipulate our environment around us? Between you and I, what makes humans different from other animals is our ability to harness the electron. The electron, it's a small part of an atom and orbits around the center of an atom, much like the planets. Next slide. So the blue things are electrons. Electrons are tiny, and they account for less than 1/18,000th of the total mass of an atom. What makes them so important? When electrons move, they create an electrical current that humans call electricity. Electricity is what separates humanity from all other species. With electricity, humanity has been able to save lives, connect on a global level, and let me watch Family Guy. In 1831, there lived a very smart man named Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday is credited with discovering the phenomena of induction, which allows most electricity to be created today. The process is actually quite simple. One needs only to turn a magnet around a conductor to induce an electrical current in the electrons of the conductor. To spin the magnet, we are presented with a variety of options. We can either use the flow of water, the movement of wind, or we can use heat to make steam to turn a turbine connected by a shaft to the magnet. Now, unfortunately, humans choose the latter, and to generate the heat necessary to boil the water, we use coal and natural gas, which emit carbon dioxide when set aflame. Electricity was not terrible for the environment at first. Many people simply did not have the money to install electricity in their homes. Only a few services were powered by electricity. Now, we live in a world portrayed by a screen. Left and right we turn, enslaved by smartphones, laptops, and cars. Yet we do not turn away from these technological traps. Instead, we actively embrace them and ignore the environmental consequences. As of this year alone, we have burned over 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide and cut down almost 1 million hectares of forest. What I have seen over the 14 years of my life is a combination, in humans, is a combination of creativity, pure genius, and stubborn behavior. Americans refuse to get off of their couches and turn off their televisions to listen to the sounds of their dying world. America in particular accounts for 18% of the world's total carbon emissions, yet holds less than 5% of the world's population. As a country, we have done great things that have changed the people of this earth, but we are needy. In fact, America is so needy that if the entire earth lived to the standards of the average American, we would need the resources of 5 worlds to sustain those standards. America is 1/6 of the reason that the world's energy is imbalanced. As humanity needs to fix what is happening right now, we need every human's commitment in order to restore what is happening to our Earth. One question remains: how? How are we to save the future of humanity, the species of this earth, and the air in which we breathe? I have seen that we are not ready for one big step to save the world. Instead, we must take 1 million small ones. Step number 1. Remember the brilliance of humanity. We have survived great disasters. This is the first disaster that we can prevent. For our entire history, we have merely survived ice ages, survived the Black Plague, but we will thrive because we will stop poisoning our world. Step number 2, realize what we are doing to the earth. We are killing the world at the expense of that Twinkie you needed, the smartphone that you can't live without. Realize that you can go without these things. Step 3, begin. To put it frankly, humans like cars, like driving in cars, everywhere, my family included. Even in the small town of Crested Butte, my family found it necessary to drive 3 blocks from lunch to a store we wanted to go to. Out of the 144 million people in the United States that work every day, 121 million of those drive to and from work alone. In this day and age, one does not simply deprive Americans from their cars. We need to decrease commute time and distance. To go about this, we must understand why commute time and distance is lengthy to begin with. For example, let's start with a man. Let's name him Jim. Jim wants to go to the University of Chicago. So he does. And for a few years, he studies and lives on the campus of the university. Then Jim he graduates and he wants to make some money. So he gets a job in the inner city of Chicago and then buys an apartment not far from there. For a few years, Jim lives and works in the inner city of Chicago. Then Jim meets a woman. Let's name her Sarah. Jim and Sarah get married and move to a bigger apartment still in the inner city. They eventually want to have a kid, but they do not feel comfortable raising their kid in the inner city. After all, apartments are small, no really parks, no pets allowed, and the neighbors aren't very nice. So they take up all their stuff and they move to the suburbs, where there's great schools, big yards, wonderful standard of living. But Jim keeps his job in the inner city of Chicago. And every day, Jim has to travel in a car to and from his work in Chicago in the inner city. He isn't doing anything wrong. He's just providing food for his family and money for his family. In this common situation, we can do one of 2 things. We can either move more commercial buildings into the suburbs and move people's works closer to them so that they don't have to drive a long way every day, or we can improve the standard of living in the inner city. We can make apartments bigger, more heavily enforced laws, and more parks and stuff like that will make people not want to leave the city in the first place. Climate change is a huge issue, so huge that it outweighs the human race. It lies beyond our comprehension. We need to open our eyes, see the world as it is, and fix it. To quote from Whitman, "O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, and life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse." What will that verse be? Thank you.